I'm bored! Entertain me.
Hey, what's going on, motivators? My name's Corporal Killjoy, and as always, to kill your boredom brings me a lot of joy. Welcome to one of the first of many videos I'm doing, which is basically a RWBY theory / discussion video. So, this is a series of videos I've been wanting to do for a while. So, I figured why not start off with one of the biggest arguments with RWBY out there is that a lot of people out there, especially anime fans, are saying that RWBY basically isn't an anime. So I respect their opinion, but really when you think about it, RWBY is an anime, above all anything else. But, you still got the naysayers out there to say, no, it's not. So with this video, what we're going to do is we're going to look into some of the arguments out there why RWBY isn't an anime, and how if RWBY is an anime, how come certain other shows aren't considered anime. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare this to a Nickelodeon series called the Avatar series, which is we're going to look at both Avatar The Last Airbender and Avatar Legend of Korra, seeing how people always want to make that argument. Regardless of whether it's, The Last Airbender or Korra, they always wind up comparing it to that show. So to start off, let's look at some of the biggest arguments of why RWBY isn't an anime. First off, is one of the biggest things I hear is that because it's CGI, completely 3D, and that there's very little to none 2D. The closest thing that we've seen to 2D so far, from what I can see, is some of the early introductions to World of Remnant videos, and there was a scene in Volume 5, Chapter 1, where we see anime renditions of Mistral, and I think that's the closest thing we've ever gotten. But again, from my knowledge, I don't know a whole lot of anime out there that's purely made up of 3D CGI. But I do know that nowadays you do see a lot of anime that have that concept, not as the main animation style, but just with little things. So if there are any anime out there that's completely CGI, please let me know in the comments below and I'll go check it out. Yeah, so that's the first argument right there. Another argument is that RWBY is made in America and it's not made in Japan, therefore it cannot be an anime. Like any form of art, anime is its own style, and RWBY does fall under a lot of elements that make it an anime. But then again, if there's elements in anime in RWBY, wouldn't there also be elements in anime in Avatar or The Legend of Korra? Well, yeah, there would be, because that's where the argument stems out. That you do clearly see there are elements of anime in both series, both the Avatar series and RWBY. And with that being said, what elements do we see? Well, let's do a quick comparison. If we were to do a quick comparison of American animation versus Japanese animation, let's compare things like Charlie Brown and Rugrats versus your run-of-the-mill anime. When you look at Charlie Brown and the Rugrats, it's a normal, random misadventures of cartoon characters, and there really is no chronological order of how things happen. And the reason I say that is because when you really look at it, that's all it is, just misadventures, and there's really not a whole lot going on. As well as, for example, if you look at the first 10 episodes of Rugrats and Charlie Brown, who's to say that episode 1 of either one of those shows didn't really happen as far as episode 7 is concerned if we look at chronological order. If we look at RWBY and Avatar, for example, there is a chronological timeline that's easy to follow. Everything's building up to one big climax, so there's that. Anime has a timeline that you could read that's going to be like, okay, today's Monday, tomorrow's Tuesday, the next day's Wednesday, and the next day's Thursday. So there's this timeline that's basically in a chronological order. So there's that. Second, if you look at anime, one of the things that anime is not afraid to do is incorporate political views, religious beliefs, and even sexuality. And we saw that as early as Sailor Moon. And that came out in I believe the late 80s, early 90s, as far as, maybe Japan's release, but I'm not really too sure on America's release. That's something I'm going to have to look up. But yeah, and if you look at Avatar, whether it's The Last Airbender or Legend of Korra, it too, like RWBY, touches on these subjects. So where is the argument exactly of how RWBY isn't an anime, or how it is an anime, versus Avatar The Last Airbender or Legend of Korra, where that series wouldn't be an anime? So here's my biggest theory. You can call this a theory or a formula, but it's my theory / formula of what I called the 3 N's. And what exactly are the 3 N's? Well, it's introduction, intriguement, and investment. And what I mean by this is that this is what really separates Avatar from RWBY. It's all in the introduction. Like, seriously, and here I'm going to break this down. If you look at both The Last Airbender series and Legend of Korra, every introduction to every episode for every season, we're talking about 8 seasons total, 4 for each series, it's exactly the same. And here's why. It's only based around one simple premise. There's a being out there that can control all 4 elements, and they're going to have to learn how to control all 4 elements to help mankind. That's why they introduced it the same. That's why we didn't need to be told anything else. So with that introduction there alone, with Avatar at least, you're intrigued. And at first, when I came across Avatar, I didn't really pay too much mind to it. I thought it was just going to be another stupid show on Nickelodeon. But until I saw one episode, I was intrigued. However, when you get something like RWBY, if you look at the introduction of RWBY from Volume 1 through Volume 5, every introduction is different, and there's a reason for that. Traditionally in anime, the reason that a lot of the introductions are different for every season is because the introduction is supposed to reflect the overall mood and theme of that season. Therefore, you kind of have an idea of what to expect. And if you notice the time difference too, RWBY's introductions are roughly 90 seconds long like your traditional anime, whereas American shows like Avatar and Legend of Korra only have about 30 seconds of introduction. So what you have with RWBY is you have more stuff to look at, and it's almost like watching a miniature music video almost. But at the same time, because Avatar was so different from RWBY, it was the same introduction over and over. There really wasn't too much investment. You were just intrigued. We were only invested later on down the road because it caught our interest. So therefore, it went from being intrigued to invested. But when it comes to RWBY, if you actually took the time to look at the introduction, like the full 90 seconds, if you look at each introduction closely, not only are you getting a feel for the overall mood and theme, you have an idea of what to expect throughout the entire series. Well, maybe not the series, but definitely each volume. And if you look at it, volumes 1 through 5 had a different introduction. Why? Because it reflected the overall mood. I'm going to put 2 perfect examples. If you look at volume 4 RWBY and volume 5, you'll notice a very, very distinct difference as far as introductions go. Because when RWBY Volume 4 came out, if you look closely at the introduction as well as the poster that came for it, immediately you see that it's all about internal struggle and something that all the characters are dealing with. Whereas Volume 5 is totally different. It's the exact opposite. Instead of internal struggle, we get resolution. And that's the feel you get when you're looking at these introductions. So when RWBY comes down to it, you don't just get intrigued, you get invested. And that's the big difference with anime, is that because of introductions like that, you're almost immediately invested into the show. So to end it on that, that's just my personal argument of why RWBY is an anime. It has every element that an anime needs. Sure, Avatar has elements, but unless you have the right ones, then you can't call it an anime. And because of the introductions being exactly the same for every season at the start of every episode, respectively for their own seasons, it's just that because they're the same, they're not different. The only mood and feel you get for it with the theme is just one person trying to master the 4 elements who has to save the world. That's it. That's pretty much straight to the point. And with RWBY, with their introductions, it kind of leaves you guessing every time. And that's the great thing about anime. You don't know what to expect. You think you do, but then there's always that twist that gets you right then and there. So, to end this, that's what makes RWBY an anime. It has the elements you see within the show, including a good intro and a great outro as well. And to top it all off, there's one thing I would like to point out. It's what Monty said, God rest your soul. It's what Monty said back at RTX 2013. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here's what he said. Take it away, Monty.
You guys like anime, right? Well, it isn't an anime without an anime intro.
See? Right there. Exactly. It wouldn't be an anime without an anime intro. So, for those of you naysayers out there who say RWBY is an anime, just remember those simple elements and then you have an anime. If it doesn't have all of them, especially the right ones, then you don't necessarily have an anime. And granted, there might be some actual animes out there if we're talking about, traditional Japanese, anime intros versus the Americanized ones. Then maybe, I don't know, I haven't seen every anime out there. That would kind of be impossible for me at this point in my life. But yeah, that's what makes RWBY an anime, guys, and that's just my personal view on it. If you guys kind of agree with me, or if you just disagree with me completely, let me know in the comments below. With that being said, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for tuning in. And if you enjoyed this video, just as always, remember, like, share, and subscribe. It really helps out with the channel. We're just a little under 100 subscribers away from my goal of 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. And if we can do that before the end of the year, I will wax my entire body and for your viewing pleasure and for my pain. So with that being said, I'm just gonna end it on a high note. Thanks again for everything, guys. You guys are the best. All right, later.